Okay, welcome back. Hope everyone had a wonderful spring break and you were able to enjoy a little bit of relaxation time. We are going to head back into our Soul Studies book. We're going to look at chapter 6. So I am on chapter 6, page 172. We're not going to read all of lesson 1. We're kind of going to take our time and go through chapter 6. As I have mentioned before, chapter 6 is going to go through a lot of history. And I know it's very difficult to see, but the timeline that says the 20th century events, I am going to post this into your Google Classroom so you can see a closer look at it. But what we're going to do, we're going to kind of take some time and we're going to look at the time period starting from about just a little bit after 1910, and we're going to go up to a little bit after 1970. There is an event that is in your soul studies in chapter 6 that is not listed on here. We're not going to do that one only because it's only relevant to our area and there's not a lot of information. We will read through it, but it's not a major focus that we're going to be looking at. But we're going to be looking at in the next few weeks. Notice I said weeks. We're going to take our time going through this. We're going to look at World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, the Civil Rights Movement, and then the Vietnam War. So we're going to take our time going through here. And as you can see with our second chart, our first event we're going to look at is going to be World War I. Okay, that is what's going to be starting for us on page 172. So we're going to look at pages 172 to 174. And this week we're going to spend just focusing on and learning about World War I. We're going to look at it not only by what Ohio did and how Ohio helped and participated in the war. We're also going to look at it from a country and global state as well. So we're going to do things just a little differently. We're not just going to look at and solely focus on Ohio. We're going to look at how these 5 events impacted Ohio and the country together. So it's going to be a little different than what we've typically done in Soul Studies, but I'm really excited and I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy it as well. So page 172. Looking at the very top, during and after the Civil War, the United States depended on Ohio. Ohio's farms and factories provided food and goods. Ohio also mined coal and salt and made many different products. In the early 1900s, Ohio's factories began making cars, aircraft, machines. Ohio was an economic leader at this time. Ohio and World War I. As Ohio grew, a war began overseas. Nations in Europe fought over land and money. This would be Britain, France, Russia, and other countries were called the Allies. The Allies were at war with the Central Powers, and they included Germany, Austria-Hungary, and other countries. So if you take a look at our anchor chart right here, this is a war against the Allied powers versus the Central Powers, and this is taking place over in Europe. Okay, so the Allied powers, the big countries were France, Great Britain, Russia, and Serbia. The 3 big countries that were in the Central Powers was Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary. Okay? Now, in the beginning, America was not in this war. And you'll also notice it says that some countries stayed neutral, such as Switzerland and Spain. Spain really they're like, nope, I'm going to stay out of this. And Switzerland was very much like that too. United States actually started very much in, we're going to be neutral as well. Now, while we said we were going to be neutral, we also were very much helping with France and Great Britain. So we said we were neutral, but we kind of leaned one way over the other. This reason is because France and Great Britain, as you remember from our previous history, they helped us a lot, especially in the Revolutionary War. France came in. Without France's help, we would not have won the Revolutionary War. We butted heads a lot with Great Britain. Eventually, we got along and we became allies. So in time, even though we butted heads with them a lot and they were kind of angry with us, in the end we ended up allying with them. So because Britain and France were our allies, we were sending aid more towards them than we were with the other countries. So even though we said we were neutral, we kind of maintained leaning towards one side. And because of this, as you look in your book, things changed when German submarines started to sink the American ships. So, on April 6th of 1917, Congress declared war on Germany. Most Americans supported this decision. So, in 1917, we entered the war on the Allied powers side because Germany was sinking our ships. But we were not unanimous in this decision that we were going to join. Several people wanted to join, but there were people that didn't. So it was kind of a back and forth. America began to prepare for war. Ohio helped. Over 200,000 Ohioans served in the war. Camp Sherman in Chillicothe was the third largest training camp in the nation, and over 40,000 troops trained there. Now, we do have a lot of war heroes that came out of World War I. One of them is Eddie Rickenbacker. He was born in Columbus, Ohio, and raced cars before the war. When the war broke out, he served as a driver for Colonial William Mitchell. Rickenbacker became a fighter pilot. He was a pilot with the 94th Aero Pursuit Squadron. As a pilot, Rickenbacker shot down 22 airplanes and 4 military balloons. Because of this, he earned the name the Ace of Aces. That was the highest out of most people. So that is a very big accomplishment, especially if you have or know of anyone in the Air Force and you talk about shooting down 22 airplanes and 4 military balloons, they will tell you that is a very difficult feat to do, and that is a very high honor. Hence why Rickenbacker received the Congressional Medal of Honor along with many other awards. Many women also helped during the war. Some worked in the factories. They filled the jobs left behind by men who went off to fight in Europe. So just like in the Civil War, women entered the factories and worked. Again, men were off fighting. Women came in and started serving in the factories. Again, many women went to serve as nurses. Ohioans Helen McClellan and Lois Campbell both joined the U.S. Army Nurse Corps. They and others risked their lives. The nurses treated soldiers and helped with other wartime duties. During the war, a disease was spreading around the world. This was a type of flu called the Spanish influenza. Over 20 million people died from it. The flu even reached Camp Sherman. About 1,200 soldiers there died from the disease. So, this does happen during war, that sometimes there are diseases that do come about. This is a time that during World War I, we did have the Spanish influenza. It started out in Europe, broke out up there, and then as military personnel started coming home, brought the flu back with them, which resulted in the Spanish influenza turning into a epidemic. So kind of interesting. We're currently the situation we're in. Another disease we're learning about. We are not going to get into this disease because we're focusing on World War I. You are more than welcome on your own time to go outside and research this. But what I would like you to know, it's in your book. We're going to talk about it again tomorrow as well. This was something else that did take place during this time period. We're just not solely focusing on it. We're going to be focusing on World War I. So. On the home front during World War I, Ohio produced steel, rubber products, and heavy machinery for the military. The states also grew food for soldiers, factories expanded, and newspaper ads called for more workers to come to Ohio. The B.F. Goodrich Company and the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company opened in Akron in the late 1800s. These companies helped Akron become the leading producer of rubber products during World War I. So B.F. Goodrich and Goodyear, instead of just focusing on tires, they started helping with other rubber products for World War I. Again, many men left the factory jobs, so because of this, women came in and took over. So here we have lots of pictures showing the women working in the factories and building those weapons and bandages and other war supplies. Even with women working in the factories, there is still a great need for more workers. Because of this, now remember, slavery is gone, we're done with it, but we still have African Americans that are in the southern states. They were encouraged to travel north to come and work in these steel mills. We were like, hey, we need more help. And you know what? If you come on up here and work, we're also going to pay you. So between 1910 and the early 1920s, about 500,000 African Americans moved from the South to Ohio and other northern states to take up these factory jobs, and we called this the Great Migration. Um, so again, we have some people that were coming up. We have more people coming up to help with the fighting and to help with all the factory jobs. This is going great. And then as soon as the United States did arrive and start to fight, this increased the Allied powers force a lot. And due to this, the Allied powers win the war. So tomorrow, you're going to look a little bit deeper, and we're going to look at exactly how did World War I start, what were the reasonings, what was happening in Europe, why were there issues that were taking place in Europe that caused this war to end up occurring. We're also going to look at some events that kind of tell us the story, the background knowledge on getting into this war. We're also going to look at, again, how the United States helped and partook in this, and then we're going to look at how the war ended, and honestly how this war kind of leads into World War II. Honestly, if World War I never took place, we possibly might not have had a World War II, but we don't know. It's we're there. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but there are some countries that are not going to be very happy with the outcome of World War I, which kind of leads us into World War II. So, with that being said, now we're not going to look at World War II until a couple of weeks, because after World War I takes place, then we're going to have a sort of depression, which is going to be our Great Depression that's going to take place, which will be next week. So, please make sure to go back, reread the pages in your book, page 172, 173, and 174. Like I said, I'm going to post these two anchor charts so you can look at them a little bit closer, more in depth. And this is what we're going to focus on this throughout the week. We're going to look at, again, here's that chart that's a little bit up closer. So this is where we're going to focus right now, is World War I. And then here is the anchor chart, again, a little bit closer than what's up on the wall. But again, this is our focus for the week. We're going to do we have some videos that we're going to watch, we have some activities we're going to do, and other great things to kind of explore this. So I look forward to taking you in this journey through World War I and kind of giving you some little bit of background information. Make sure if you have any questions, post them, let me know, and we can talk about them together. So until next time, see you later.